All right, so for today, we're going to learn a couple of rules. The first one we're going to call the law of sines. So, law of sines. Given a triangle, any type of triangle, it doesn't have to be a right triangle, any type of triangle, let me label my corners as A, B, and C. And my sides, notice for angles or for corners, I'm using capital letters. Now for sides, I'm going to use lowercase letters, and I'm also going to label them as A, B, C. Let me label this side A. Notice how side A, I put it opposite from angle A, which means side A is far away from angle A. So I'm going to call this side B. Notice how side B is opposite from angle B, and I'm going to call this sine C. Side C is opposite from angle C. Now, given this rule, like the law of sines, what it is, it tells us that A divided by sine of A is equal to B divided by sine of B, which is equal to C divided by sine of C. That's that rule. That's the law of sines. We're going to see it in a minute how to use it. Now, let me also give you the law of cosines. The law of cosines. What that thing tells us, the same idea, given a triangle, and let me call the angles A, B, and C, and let me label my sides A, B, C. Remember, side A is opposite from angle A, so this is side A. Side B is opposite from angle B, and side C is opposite from angle C. Now, the law of cosines, what it says is A squared is going to be equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of A. We also have that B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of B. And lastly, another way we can use this is C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of C. All right, coming back to law of sines. When am I going to use the law of sines? If I give you angle A inside A, for sure you have to use that fraction. If I give you angle B inside B, if I give you any information from any of these fractions, as a matter of fact, better yet, the information I'm going to give you guys is going to have information only about two fractions. There's going to be one fraction I'm not going to mention, neither the angle nor the side. And that's how you know which fractions you're going to be using. For the law of cosine, if I give you angle A, use the first formula. If I give you angle B, use the second formula. If I give you angle C, use the third formula. Now, let's take a look at our work. For today, I'm going to be using a calculator. So let me bring a calculator out. Now, let's take a look at the first one. Find the measurement indicated, round your answer to the nearest tenth. We're looking for angle A. So let me label I see my corners ABC. Let me label my sides ABC. I know side A is far away, right? Opposite from angle A. So I know this is side A. I know this is side B, and this is side C. Notice how I'm giving you guys angle B and side B. Since I give you two of the same letter, right? The side B and the angle B, we're going to be using the law of sines. So when you're given the same letter in angle and side, you're going to be using the law of sines. Since I'm using the B's, remember that part of our formula was B over sine of B. That was one of our fractions. Now, for the other fraction, notice how I'm giving you side A. So I'm just going to be saying that A over sine of A. Notice how I give you nothing about the C's. So you're not going to be using the C's. All right. b, I know b is 9. So I'm just going to go 9 over sine of 64 is equal to 5, because I know little a, side a is 5. Now, I'm just going to call this sine of a. I don't know what angle a is, and as a matter of fact, that is what I'm solving for. So I have that, when I cross multiplied, I have that 9 times sine of a is equal to 5 times sine of 64. Divide both sides by 9. I have that sine of a is equal to 5 times sine of 64 over 9. Let me get to that point for right now. I'm going to use parentheses for the top. So I'm just going to say 5 times. Now, sine of 64, depending on your calculator. Sometimes you have to press sine first, and then some other times you have to press the angle first. In my case, I had to type in the angle first. I'm just going to go 64. In my trig, I'm just going to put sine. So it tells me sine of 64. I close my parentheses. Now, what I see there, that decimal, 4.4939, yada, 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 that is what is 5 times sine of 64. Well, I'm not quite done yet. This case, I have to divide by 9, because remember, that is just 5 times sine of 64, which is the top of my fraction. Let me divide this by 9. So right now, I have that sine of a is equal to 0.49933 and some more decimals. However, I'm not asking for sine of a, I'm asking for a. Now, remember in trigonometry, in geometry, you guys remember in geometry, you guys used to solve for angles. It would be nice if my angle and this decimal could trade places. And that happens, but the only thing is that I'm not going to call it sine. I'm going to call this sine inverse of 0.4993, my big decimal, that's angle A. In order for the decimal and the angle to switch places, I'm going to use, instead of sine, I'm going to use sine inverse. Now, on my calculator, I have to press second first. And then I'm going to go my trig. I'm going to have to find sine inverse. So here's my second. Here's some sine inverse. Now, remember how, that's my angle, but remember how it says rounded to the nearest tenth? So if I see this as a 2 decimals, I have A is equal to 29.95. Now this 5 is big, so it pushes the 9. But because this 9 is at the limit, ends up pushing this other 9. So I'm just going to say that angle A is 30 degrees. Or you can just type it as 30.0. When my number after the decimal point is a 0, it's optional. Let's take a look at another example. I know this is side B because it's opposite from angle B. I have angle B, and this is side A. I don't have angle A. I'm looking for angle A. I remember that B over sine of B is equal to A over sine of A. If I had C's, I will also say that C is equal to sine of C, but since I have nothing about the C's, so I'm just going to rewrite this as 11 over sine of 24 is equal to 7 over sine of A. Let me cross multiply. 11 times sine of A is equal to 7 times sine of 24. Let me divide both sides by 11. So I have that sine of A is equal to 7 times sine of 24 divided by 11. Let me figure what that is. So I'm just going to go 7 times. My case, remember I had to type in 24 before I type in sine. So 24 sine. I can see my calculator. You guys can see it. And this, let me divide it by 11. So I have that sine of A is equal to 0.2588 in a big decimal. In order for the angle, remember how I'm solving for angle A? In order for the angle and my decimal to switch places, I'm just going to say sine inverse of 0.2588 in that big decimal. That's going to be angle A. All right, so in my case, let's see. I have to press second, sine inverse. Remember, rounded to the nearest tenth, so 1 decimal place. My case, you can see I have 15 or 15.0. 1 decimal place. Once again, when my number after the decimal is a 0, it will be optional if you type it or not. If it's not a 0, no choice. All right, let's take a look. Let me erase all this for space purposes. Let's take a look at example 3. Let me see what I have. Geez, this thing doesn't erase. Let me see what I have. I notice that I have angle C. So I'm going to label this side C. And I notice that I have angle B. So I'm just going to call this side B. However, and then I see that I have side C. And then, or this is side A, I mean. This is side A. And I don't know angle A. Remember, in order for me to use law of sines, I must know 2 of the same letter. Angle A in side A, or angle B side B, or angle C side C. I don't see any of them. However, one thing you guys remember from geometry, all 3 angles of a triangle must add up to 180. So given the 2 angles that I have, I'm going to add those 2 angles. 68 plus 24, that is 92. Right? I added the 2 angles that I was given. Let me subtract that from 180, and that gives me 88. So I know this angle is 88. Now remember that A over sine of A, that's one of my fractions, equals, I'm solving for side AB, right? But notice how side AB, I call it C. I know C over sine of C. So I have that 27 over sine of 88 is equal to side C over sine of 68. When I cross multiply, I have that 27 times sine of 68 is equal to side C times sine of 88. Let me divide both sides by sine of 88 to get that C by itself. And I get that C is going to be 27 times sine of 68 divided by sine of 88. Let me figure what that is. 27 times sine of 68 I'll press equal. It just tells me what the top part of my fraction is. Divided by sine of 88. Press enter again. So it tells me 25.04, which I'm just going to round it out as 25. Now, for question number 4, we must solve for AB, which is little c. You notice I have side B and angle B. I have angle C and I'm looking for side C. I remember that B over sine of B is equal to C over sine of C. So I'm just going to say that 29 over sine of 63 is equal to C over sine of 16. When I cross multiplied, C times sine of 63 is equal to 29 times sine of 16. So I get that C is equal to 29 times sine of 16 divided by sine of 63. Let me figure what that is. I'm just going to go sine of 16 times 29. All right, the order I multiply the top, doesn't matter. Divided by sine of 63. Enter. So I get 8.97, which is basically 9.0 or just 9. Right, the 7 pushes the 9, but the 9 pushes the 8, so just 9. All right, let's take a look at angle C. Question C. Question 5, I mean. Find the measurement of angle C. Now, I'm given all three sides, all three. I'm looking for an angle. I'm not given an angle at all. I'm just given three sides. So I'm not given an angle at all. That's for sure law of cosines. Now, remember how law of cosines, I came in and said, I gave you three formulas, right? But one of the formulas was, one of my formulas was c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times cosine of c. I'm going to be using this formula because I'm dealing with angle C. So I know this is side A, this is side B, and this is side C. So I'm just going to say that 17 squared is equal to 15 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 15 times 28 times cosine of C. All right, let me find out what each of these squares are. I want to know what 17 squared is. It's 289. 15 squared is 225. 28 squared is 784. Minus, I can do 2 times 15 times 18. 2 times 15 times 28, that is 840 cosine of C. Let me simplify things a little. 225 plus 784, I can combine that. So I have 289 is equal to 1009 minus 840 cosine of C. Let me subtract 1009. So I have that negative 720 is equal to negative 840 times cosine of c. Let me divide both sides by negative 840. So I have that negative 720 divided by negative 840 is cosine of c. Let's see what that is. Notice that both are negative, so let me just ignore the negative signs. I know negative divided by negative is positive. So I'm just going to go 720 divided by 840. So I have that 0.85 and so more is equal to cosine of c. So I'm just going to say that c is equal to cosine inverse of my decimal. All right, so I'm just going to go cosine inverse of that decimal, 31.002, rounded to one decimal place. I'm just going to say angle C is equal to 31. Let's take a look at question number 6. I have angle A. I'm solving for angle B. I don't know what angle B is. So because I'm dealing with angle B, it would be nice for me to know if I'm going to be looking for angle B, it would be nice for me to know side A and side C. But I don't quite know this. Now, let me solve. I see that I have angle A, so the formula I'm going to be using, law of cosines, the formula I'm going to be using is the one with angle A. From the formulas I gave you guys, the first one, I have that A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of A. I can use law of sines when I have two of the same letter. Angle A, side A. Angle B, side B. Angle C, side C. I don't have two of the same letters, so I cannot use law of cosines. I have angle A, so I'm going to use law of cosines. Remember, when you have two of the same letter, you use law of sines. When you don't, law of cosines. I have angle A, so I'm going to use the first one, the one that has cosine of A. So I know this side is A, this is side B, and this is side C. So I have that A squared is equal to 7.4 squared plus 11.5 squared minus 2 times 7.4 times 11.5 times cosine of 97.9. The right side of the equal sign is all numerical, so might as well use a calculator. 7.4 squared is 54. So I have that A squared is equal to 54.76 plus 132.25 minus 2 times 7.4 times 11.5 is 170.2 times cosine of 97.9. Let me type all that in. As a matter of fact, let me type this right here. I'm going to solve what A squared is. I'm just going to go 7.4 squared plus 11.5 squared minus 2 times 7.4 times 11.5 times cosine of 97.9. In my case, remember I had to put in the number first and then cosine. But I see what I have typed. Now this negative 0.13, that is what cosine of 97.9 is. So don't forget to press equal again. So I have that a squared is equal to 210.403, the big decimal number. So a should be the square root of that. Let me get the square root of that. So I have my big decimal number there. Let me get my square root. So I'm just going to say that a is 14.5. I know I ask you guys to solve for angle B. And what gave us was side A. So we're not quite done yet. Now notice how I have side A, angle A. Now I have two of the same letters. Let's use the law of sines. I remembered that 14.5 over sine of 97.9. Remember, A over sine of A is equal to 7.4 sine of B. So I have that 14.5 times sine of B is equal to 7.4 times sine of 97.9. So sine of B is equal to 7.4 times sine of 97.9 divided by 14.5. 7.4 times sine of 97.9, and press entered, divided by 14.5. I know that's sine of B, but don't I have to do the inverse of this? Let me do the inverse of this, and I'm just going to say that B is equal to 30.4. Erase all this for space purposes. Let's take a look at question number 7. Let me give myself some more room. Let me erase all this. All right, giving myself some more room. All right, so let's take a look. Question number 7. I'm asking to solve for side AB. So I'm asking to solve for little c. Remember, this is side B and this is side A. Remember, when I have two of the same, I'm just going to use law of sines. When I have angle A inside A, or angle B inside B, or angle C inside C, I'll use law of sines. Since I don't, I'm going to use the law of cosines. I have angle C, so the formula I'm going to use for law of cosines is the one that has angle C. So I have that C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of C. since I had angle C, I'm going to use the formula that has angle C, so cosine of C. So I have that C squared is equal to 22 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 22 times 30 times cosine of 87. So 22 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 22 times 30 times cosine of 87. I press enter. That's what C squared is. So get the square root of that. And I'm going to find out that C is equal to 36.3. Now I use the law of cosines. It gave me letter C. So use law of sines. Since I have angle C, side C, I have that 36.3 over sine of 87. Remember, C over sine of C equals 22 over cosine of A. Actually, no, you don't have to. I just solved for C. Right? I thought I was going to solve for angle A. I just solved for C. That's what I was looking for. So just 36.3. Let's take a look at number 8. I'm looking for side AC. Side AC is actually little b. I have angle B, so I'm going to use law of cosines. Since I have angle B, I'm going to use the second formula I gave you guys. Remember that one said B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of B. That was the formula. So I'm going to say that B squared is equal to, I know this little a and this is little c. Remember, angle A is opposite from side A. Angle C is opposite from side C. So I have that 14 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 14 times 6 times cosine of 26. I'm literally going to type this in. So I'm just going to go 14 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 14 times 6 times cosine of 26. Enter. So that's what B squared is. So I have the B squared is equal to 81 point yada yada yada. That's what B squared is. I'm actually want to know what B is, not B squared. So in this case, let me get the square root of it. I have my big decimal. Let me get the square root of it. And I'm just going to say B is equal to 9. Whenever you type it, just type in the answer, just 9.